So, as you all know, TakeOff, the member for the Migos, was killed last month. Unfortunately, murdered, in my opinion. I don't believe it was an accident. Murdered last month. Now, the killer, the suspected killer, Patrick Clark, has now had a bond set for $2 million earlier this month, and it was reduced to $1 million after defense attorneys argued that the original amount was excessive and goes against the Texas Constitution. They also argued that Clark's family could not afford the $2 million bond amount. Now, here's the piece of information that we're going to talk about. Also revealed in court was Quavo, another member of Migos and TakeOff's uncle, was part of the argument and fight that led to the shooting. Defense attorneys and prosecutors said that Quavo has not been cooperating. Now, let's talk about this, right? Quavo is currently not cooperating. And I'm not going to rip into Quavo. I'm not. Because at the end of the day, Quavo saw some shit that none of us would ever expect to see happen to one of our family members. Quavo saw his nephew be shot and killed right in front of him. How many of you wake up one day living life you're at the top of the fucking mountain in terms of life? You're a member of the Migos. In fact, you're most people's favorite member. You're a member of the Migos. You're financially successful, socially successful in all endeavors. You're out hanging out with your nephew. You're out hanging out with your boys in Houston, and your nephew is shot in front of you and killed, and you have to watch him bleed out from his fucking head and die in front of you. I'm not going to go in on Quavo, but what I am going to say is that this is a problem in our community. This is a problem. The fact that Quavo, and we know what would happen if Quavo decided to testify. We know exactly what would happen. If Quavo decided, you know what? Fuck the street shit. Fuck the way people would perceive me. Fuck the way that I've lived my life all the way up to this point. My nephew deserves as much justice as I can give him. I will testify. If Quavo woke up one day and decided to do that, it's a lot of niggas within the culture who would sit there and call this man a snitch, who would sit there and try to wreck this man's career, who would sit there and try to hold this man to a childish standard of living, of not snitching, despite the fact that his nephew died in front of him. This is the current culture we have in front of us right now. This is it. You think Quavo is hesitant to testify because he wants street justice? The killer was locked up. The two dudes suspected of killing TakeOff are currently locked up. They're currently locked up. Quavo's not going to get hands put on these niggas. Quavo's not going to get somebody to pull up on these niggas and empty a clip. And it's not going to happen. No magazines are going to be emptied at any of these guys. If there's ever going to be a chance of justice, it's going to be a witness, preferably Quavo, coming forward on the stand and saying, Your Honor, yes, that is the individual who shot my nephew. But we know why Quavo, one of the reasons why Quavo won't be doing this, not just because it's a traumatic experience for him, but also because if he does it, his career will be in jeopardy. Same thing that's going on with Gunna. Gunna took that plea deal, and in that plea deal, he will be obliged to testify if the court or the defense summons him to court. Gunna has been getting crucified for simply taking the plea and admitting that YSL was a gang and that he had personal knowledge of YSL's criminality. What do you think people are going to say about Quavo for simply testifying for his fucking nephew? Now, do I think the industry will turn on Quavo? No, I don't think the industry will turn on Quavo, but a lot of people, a lot of fans are going to harass this man about an extremely traumatic event simply because he wants his nephew to receive justice. That's the evil world that we live in. And I want to ask us as black men, when are we going to change? When are we going to do better? When are we going to do different? Why are we holding one another to these childish rules of no snitching? And then we wonder why our community is more unsafe, more violent than other communities. We wonder why there's certain disadvantages we have to deal with that other groups don't have to. We can talk about systematic oppression. We can talk about Jim Crow. We can talk about redlining. We can talk about all of these different historical events that led us to where we are currently today. But there is an undoubtable, undeniable responsibility that we currently have to the culture that we have today. We have a responsibility here. We have blood on our hands as well. This no snitching policy, this no snitch rule, it's delusional. It's delusional. That's exactly what it is. And the fact that Quavo is feeling hesitant about testifying about a murder that he visually, he saw it. The nigga saw it. He was there. He saw his nephew die in front of him. The fact that he's hesitant to testify about that goes to show that our culture is fucked up. Why does Quavo feel hesitant to talk about this? Because he knows people are going to give him shit for testifying in the name of justice for his nephew. This nigga Quavo a snitch. All that street shit that nigga was talking about. I'm not finna give Quavo shit for testifying about his nephew being murdered. I'm not giving Quavo shit about that. I don't care what he was rapping about before. There's always a room for change and a room for redemption in any man, in all men. There's always room for redemption. There's always room to do things differently. And sometimes things need to hit us personally for us to see things in a different way. Sometimes bad shit has to happen to us on an individual level for us to change our perspective on a philosophy that we had in life, or an idea of a living that we had in life. Sometimes it takes that. And if our culture was different, if we didn't have such a stigma around simply telling the police what the fuck happened, Quavo would probably be comfortably taking a stand right now saying, Your Honor, that isn't the guy who did it, or that is the guy who did it. This is what I saw. This is what I didn't see. This is what I think other people might have saw. You know, the pressure that this man is feeling right now, it comes from the current fucked up state of the culture. The current fucked up state of the culture. We as black men are arguing about whether Gunna's a snitch or not. That's what we're arguing about in 2022. Quavo is scared to testify, or refuses to testify about his own nephew's death because of the culture that we've created. This ridiculous, childish culture of no snitching. How can we live in peace? How can we have functioning, safe communities? How can we have functioning, safe communities if we can't even report violence to the police and help them lock up murderers? How? If we all do what Quavo's doing, we would never have a functioning community a day in our lives. If we all do what Quavo's currently doing, our communities would be even more rife with crime than they are now. At some point, we need to make it okay for black men. No, not at some point. Right the fuck now. We need to make it okay for black men to testify to the fucking cops. This is what I saw. Any more information you need, I'm willing to give it to you. It's snitch season, nigga. Real shit. All that, I'm not a snitch, I'm not cooperating, that shit is corny, bro. Y'all ever wondered how other groups look at us when we say that shit? Y'all ever wondered about that? And don't give me that, it don't matter what they think. Just think for 1 second. What do we gain from not cooperating with the police when someone from our community commits a violent crime? What do we as a whole gain from someone who is a violent criminal walking free and not being held accountable for their actions? What do we gain? Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. So with that established, it's beyond me as to why this is even a debate, why this is even a discussion, why this is even a controversy or anything of the sort. It's beyond me as to why any of this is currently a debate in our community. Why there's still people saying, well, you wouldn't understand, you're not from the streets. Nigga, Quavo and TakeOff were 2 of the 3 Migos. These niggas weren't in the streets. These niggas were rappers. And quite frankly, the streets currently ain't benefiting neither of them. They were hanging around street dudes from mob ties. TakeOff loses his life, and because of the street code, Quavo won't even go to court and testify and say, look, Your Honor, that's the guy who shot my nephew. What positives has anybody gained from any of this so-called street shit? Feel free to map them out for me. Feel free to correct me. Because as far as I see right now, all I'm tallying is negative. All I see is negatives. I see not one positive. Point out one positive of the street shit that I currently see right now. And this street mentality and this tough nigga mentality, it's not benefiting anyone. It's not benefiting anyone at all. Niggas said nothing about, this is the streets. Y'all don't understand these street rules. Y'all don't understand the streets. What are the streets doing for, what could the streets possibly do for a nigga like Quavo? Help me understand. The truth of the matter is that this no snitch rule, this no snitch policy is childish, it's juvenile, it's pathetic. Why y'all think them white folks asked Cameron on Fox News, I think it was Bill O'Reilly, why y'all think them white folks asked Cameron, if there was a serial killer living next to you, would you report him to the police or would you move? This nigga Cameron gonna sit there and say, I would move. You wanna know why they asked him that question? So they could laugh at him? So they could laugh at him. They knew what he was going to say. They knew Cameron was going to sit there and say, I would move. I wouldn't tell on no serial killer. They knew he would say that. They wanted to just humiliate him because they knew he was going to say some stupid shit. They knew he was going to say some ignorant shit like, I would just move. I would allow a serial killer to terrorize my community by not cooperating with the police. They know this is how we think. And that's why they asked Cameron that shit, to embarrass him. Y'all don't see how juvenile this shit is? That people can have a full criminal career in our community simply because we refuse to cooperate? That's cool to y'all? That makes sense to y'all? Somebody make this make sense. Somebody make it make sense. It's unfortunate, but it seems to me like the tide is actually turning. Thanks to people like Hassan Campbell and Charleston White, who I think they're beefing right now, but whatever. Thanks to people like Charleston White and Hassan Campbell, we're seeing a current change in the black community. This no snitch shit is going to come to an end eventually. Sooner or later, this shit will be considered the new corny. Because at this point, it's just juvenile. It's absolutely juvenile in nature. It's just ridiculous. Really? No snitching? Not telling? I empathize with Quavo. Really, I do. I saw the video. I'm not going to play it, but I saw the video, bro. Quavo was heartbroken, bro. He saw his own nephew bleed out in front of him and die. I can't even fathom. I can't even imagine. So I'm not gonna blast Quavo here. But I'm mad at the culture that would I'm mad at us for creating a culture where Quavo feels uncomfortable with testifying about this. Now, could he testify of his own free will if he wants to? Of course. But, you know, he understandably is concerned about his career. No rapper wants the term snitch attached to their name. And unfortunately, the term snitch has been stretched so far, where originally snitch meant someone who participated in a crime, was locked up, and decided to cooperate with the police to lock up his cohort, to lock up his partners. Now, snitch simply means if you talk to the police about anything. It's an evil world we live in. It's a fucked up world that we live in. Hopefully Quavo changes his mind. Hopefully people like Charleston White encourage Quavo to testify. Hopefully we as a community encourage Quavo to testify and gain justice for his nephew. And hopefully that's what happens. We'll see what happens. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.